In accordance with the Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7B regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting will be held remotely with no in-person attendance. The meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. The link for YouTube can be found in the pop-up message on the www.oess.org website. I'd like to call the meeting of the Orange Board of Education on June 15th to order at 7:04. Could we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the
republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
liberty,
liberty, and justice for all.
for all.
Thank you. Mission statement. Betty, would you be kind enough to read the mission statement?
Yeah. The Orange Elementary School District recognizes that the education of each child is the shared responsibility of every member of our community. Our goal is to inspire and empower each student to achieve academic excellence, embrace social and individual responsibility, and lead with integrity. We believe all individuals should be valued and treated with respect. Together, we will make a difference.
Thank you, Betty. We have no public participation. We have no correspondence. If I can take a moment to talk to the board, as I'm sure we're all aware at this point that the Fireman's Carnival has been canceled. And as a result, there is a 30% loss in revenue to that fire department. Unless there are any objections, the Board of Finance, Orange Board of Finance, has taken up the mantle to establish, for the most part, a GoFundMe page. I would like to send out a separate little flyer to our families, making them aware of the site and the GoFundMe page, and just ask them whatever the donation is, any amount would be appreciated, just to get the word out there even further. So it's a community organization that's we're helping out here, so it's not a private entity or anything. So I think we're fine in that respect. But I just wanted to run it by you guys, see if there's any objections. Otherwise, I will have Dr. Scarpetti and Mary send something out probably tomorrow. Any objections?
No, can't think of anything. Sorry, we're not having it.
Yep, no, sorry, we're not having it.
I think it's great to let all the parents know that it's out there, because people may not know the exact link. So
yeah, exactly. Okay, great. All right, thank you. Consent agenda. I need a motion to accept the items under the consent agenda. The items are the regular session minutes from the May 18th, 2020 Board of Education meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from the May 18th, 2020 Board of Education meeting? Betty, do I have a second? Susan? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
You get that, Mary?
I have it.
I believe it's unanimous, correct?
I think so.
Okay. Did anyone, I'm sorry, opposed? Abstained? Okay, so that must have been unanimous. Very good.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Scarpetti, would you give your report, please?
Yep, absolutely, Mr. Crow. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see everyone. As I thought before coming on and looking at this past 3 months, one thing I believe all of us have realized since March is how things can change really moment by moment, and how challenging it may be to accomplish something, even though at sometimes it didn't even appear from it on the onset, no matter if it's me talking right now and getting frozen on the screen as students and parents had difficulty. But we had challenges, and we experienced many of them as we strive to address our students and their specific needs, and some of our parents' needs too during this time. And these challenges even included the end of the year ceremonies. As new executive orders were established, so were guidelines set with each executive order. This forced us to be creative in order to provide what I observed to be a fun, exciting, and even touching moment at our end of the year ceremonies. I'd like to give special thanks to Mr. Zioli and Dr. Mohammed, who worked collaboratively with the school system in order to establish safe protocols in order to make Friday a special day, especially for sixth graders who are going on to the middle school. I want to thank our principals and staff who made this challenge and made it a day to remember to all our staff. I know many board members attended, not to put anyone on the spot, and if it's okay with you, Mr. Kraut, would any board member like to share what they observed during that time that were able to attend? I would love to hear what you saw, and if you could share that. Mrs. Hadlock?
Yeah.
I just want to say, being at Turkey Hill School and seeing I went to just the sixth grade promotion, and seeing the big archway of balloons that people drove through, and so many cars that were decorated and tooting and honking, and a huge group of staff. We were all sitting under the trees in the shade. And it was just fun to see all the kids hop out of the cars and quickly rush up to get their pictures taken. And then everybody cheer. We all had our little clappers and cowbells. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And you could see that the families really appreciated it. And the kids were thrilled to be able to see teachers, their current teacher, and some of their teachers from the past. So I enjoyed being there, and I did give my regards and thanks for the extraordinary efforts that teachers have made these past few months from all the members of the board.
Charles?
Dr. Scarpetti, thank you. I also was able to attend the Mary L. Tracy, I guess I'll call it the closing ceremony, which was very well run, and they had a kind of a timeline of which teacher students would come. And I was taken aback at just how emotional it was for everyone involved, from the parents to the staff, to the students. It really did give a great sense of closure to the year that I think everybody was needed, while also adhering to those guidelines. And then I also was able to attend the sixth grade ceremony over at Peck Place, which was similar. You know, it's a rite of passage for people as they, promoted from one school system to another, and that was also another well-run event with, again, a big touch of emotion as students are leaving their home school and going on to other adventures. And it was great to see how they were able to have that moment with the principal, their parents, their staff members, and a lot of honking of horns. So it certainly, certainly wasn't something any of us probably would have imagined 3 or 4 months ago, but I was very thankful to have been invited and be a small part of it. And I thought they were very well done, given the very challenging circumstances.
Is there anyone else?
Yes,
Mr. Vitale?
thank you, Dr. Scarpetti. So I drove through the Turkey Hill final ceremony, if you will, as a parent, because my kids are there, and we were fortunate because my kids weren't moving out of sixth grade, and they'll be there next year. But my comment was very good for them to go see their teachers. Amazing how much they missed their teachers. Their teachers certainly appeared to miss them. I think they felt like there was a sense of closure, and they were excited for who they may see up there, for friends, teachers, other people who worked at school. So it was a good time, and I think it was a nice sense of closure for them. They worked very hard on signs and streamers, and I think I still have some streamers on my car, so I look pretty funny when I'm driving around. But we appreciated having that sense of end of the year and being part of something else besides just being at home with mom and dad. Very positive.
Mrs. Wieland?
I just wanted to, I don't want to leave out Racebrook. We attended as a family for the end of the year ceremony for Racebrook. And again, it was the same thing. It was really emotional for everybody. It was really great, speaking as a parent, for my kids to see, my daughters to see their teachers. And there was bubbles and music, and it was great to see everybody making the best of it. And it was a really strong sense of, strong showing of community. So it was a great job by all. And all the pictures were great that I saw too.
And again, I want to thank for anyone that was able to attend. I know all of you that send your regard, but I thought it would be worthwhile, because I think even on that day, there were challenges, but the district faced as best we could, and we appreciate that you took the time to attend and share your thoughts. And as we continue to wait for specific decisions to come from the state, we have already begun planning for the fall. In the past board meetings, I have asked parents to reach out to teachers and principals regarding their experiences. Their feedback has been integral as we adjusted to this fluid situation and also gave us information for us to address over the summer. Parents' responses were a confirmation of what we were actually seeing during this process too. We thank the parents who reached out, though in order to receive additional feedback, a survey was sent to all parents, which we will collect and share with the board at a future meeting. We also sent a survey to our teachers. You may recall the district, in collaboration with Orange Teachers League, sent a survey out to our staff. In addition, OTL sent one on their own, in which we used both results to respond to their challenges while addressing and clarifying expectations. We thought it would be a good idea to gather staff's thoughts and do a comparison of before and after. And again, responses from the parents and teachers will be analyzed, and this will provide another element for us to address this summer. Along with the surveys, we've already started working in the preparation. As you could imagine, any vendor, any consulting firm has reached out to districts to talk about infrared lighting, cameras, cleaning, but also the surefire way to start off, with the rubber hitting the road in the fall. I've attended some of those webinars. Some of them I have gained a lot of knowledge, but the common theme that I've actually have seen is really creating a committee. Some of them call it a reopening committee or a steering committee. But what I observed, and even though this is an operational side, which is my role as a superintendent, one thing that I believe the value that all of you bring as a board members is a truly important piece. And I couldn't help to see the connections that we've already established with our own subcommittee meetings. So, for example, one webinar I attended was talking about operations. They talk about technology, facility, maintenance, and transportation. Another subgroup of that, they recommended a committee of curriculum, student teacher, school schedule, staff schedule. Another one would be resources like budget, facilities. Another one would be parents and teachers and staff. And the board. And so what I realize, what we've established already will help us and support us, again, especially once we get final decisions from the state. Because as you know, we have subcommittees of finance. We have subcommittees of curriculum, of transportation, policies. We've established a PTOA council meeting, which would help. We meet with OTL. So I believe that we are aligned already with what we have already established to help us and have the stakeholders be included in this response as we gather information and get ready for what we don't know in the future. Again, lending itself to what I said in the beginning of the challenges that we may face and how they can constantly change. And with that, for some of you that are parents, I hope that you read the letter that I sent to you as a parent. I know you serve multitude roles as a board member, but a parent. But I couldn't help myself not to share my heartfelt gratitude to all the parents out there, because it's amazing the stories that they've shared through these 3 months. And it's been a drastic difference of each of their challenges that they've been facing. And I know people have been very complimentary and very supportive, even with their criticisms and feedback. We want them all, because that's the way we're going to get better. So I want to, again, if those parents that are watching now, I want to extend my deepest thanks to you and also to our staff. I also sent them a heartfelt gratitude of what we've faced as a community, as a district. And we look forward to the challenges that will face us. Again, not knowing what they may be and guidelines that will be provided to us, but we look forward to it and are ready to tackle each one as they come. Thank you, Mr. Kraut.
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Scarpetti? Betty?
It's not really a question. I just wanted to also go on record as to thanking the art teachers for the virtual art show, which I think highlighted probably every single student in the entire district, which was, I thought, a very nice thing because usually the big art show chose selected pieces, and this time it was really worth it to watch. I think it was 35 minutes long, a show with all sorts of great music, and I was very pleased to see how the art teachers decided to split up the students in totally different ways so that they concentrated on just grade levels from each school, is what it sounded like. So I thought, all right, congratulations to them for making the students feel celebrated and also celebrating the arts in the community.
Mrs. Haddock, I appreciate you mentioning that was one of the things that came to mind when I said about how many challenges we've had and how we've had to be creative. But that was definitely one, and they did a fantastic job. So thank you for sharing that. And as I look over my notes as Mrs. Haddock was talking, I'd be remiss. I know I shared with the entire board, and I know we'll honor them in a different way than just acknowledging them verbally now. But I do want to acknowledge 2 retirees. We have Mrs. Corkindale and Ms. Fleming. Mrs. Corkindale has served our district for 33 years, and Mrs. Fleming has served us for 54 years. So, ladies, thank you very much. We love you. We appreciate everything that you've done for our students over the years, and we hope in the near future that we'll be honoring you in front of the board.
Anything else for Dr. Scarpetti? Very well. Christine?
Good evening, everyone. Some of you for the second time, so I apologize if this is a bit repetitive because we just had a finance subcommittee meeting earlier this evening. So we talked about how expenditures were again mainly routine, despite it was a 3 payroll month. We continued to remain well within budget. We did discuss a number of, unexpected costs, and we talked about these related to COVID, that we had distance learning, software for distance learning, and laptops for students, and chemicals and equipment related to the deep cleaning that went on at the schools, and masks and things of that nature. But in the end, we're in a net savings position related to some of the savings that COVID has brought in the areas of salary and substitutes and interns, utilities, and overtime and things like that. And that savings is going to be carried forward in a non-lapsing account and will help us meet our budget targets next year. So that was about budget. In terms of lunches, we said they would continue to be served at the Orange Middle School until June 30th, instead of, the end of the school year as mandated by the governor. The amount of lunches being served has, in a good way, gone down by about 100 a day. So that's some good news in terms of the need of people in the community. And we talked about a Munis update. We're gearing up for a go live of the majority of the financial package at the end of July 1st. Things are moving on well. We're also looking at an October 1 go live for our payroll package. That's also moving ahead quite well. The auditors are beginning their work for the 2019-2020 plan year already next week. And central office is starting to work on the annual state reporting package. And that's about it from our side.
Any questions for Christine? Very well. Evelyn?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to share that last week, our teachers began to meet in their district planning teams to talk about how we're going to address some of our learning gaps. And so what we did was we looked at all of the targets and the learning skills in our intended curriculum, and we compared those skills to what we actually were able to accomplish during distance learning to see where we had gaps. And we plan to to identify well, actually, we did begin to identify those gaps, and we plan to address those by counting those particular skills as prerequisites to related skills in the next grade. And so that's our plan. It's looking really good. There were really close matches between math and writing. And we saw a lot of discrepancies in science. And so now we're planning to adapt the science curriculum for more possible virtual science learning, because many of our experiments included lots of interaction with students. And so we need to work with those science planners, with the Smithsonian. Also, we were rotating some of the domains. So as while one group of students may have been working on physical science, another group was working on earth science, and another on life science. And so rotating, and that became problematic when we went virtual. So we're planning now to engage in those domains at the same time and adapt. And so that's going to take a lot of work, but that's part of our summer work, to really make lots of changes in the science area for distance learning if we need it. Also, we are in the process of analyzing and coding responses from post-distance learning surveys that we administered to our teachers. And our curriculum subcommittee chair will share a little bit about that. We also would like everyone to know that the governor finally posted this year's summer reading challenge. And the title is Imagine Your Story. And so we hope our families will take advantage of those resources over the summer. There will be lots of digital books available, help with matching books to students by their lexiles and complexity of the books. And so those challenges have now been updated, and they're available online. And that's about it.
Anyone have any questions for Evelyn? Okay, thank you, Evelyn. Mary?
Good evening, everyone. I'll be brief as well. Our extended school year, otherwise known as ESY, it's a summer educational program intended to help students who receive special education services throughout the year to maintain skills. The district will be providing distance learning this summer. The district, we've had many factors we had to consider in making this decision. Among them had been the challenge to secure an adequate number of special education teachers and related service staff to properly support the implementation of a live in-person program, and the requirements stated in the rules of operating summer school during COVID-19 established by the state of Connecticut. Families provided district feedback as to whether their child would participate in the virtual distance learning program. And if they chose to, staff was assigned to them, and we're ready to roll for July 1st. Because we are distance, we can begin July 1st as opposed to the July 6th start date for what they had suggested if you could meet these requirements for in-person. Families that were not able or chose not to participate in distance learning were offered summer materials to support their child's learning if they chose to accept that. To recap on the district's effort to support the social emotional needs of our students, families, and staff, the primary mental health project allowed for a subscription to Peace at Home Parenting Solution. I shared this at our last meeting, but I want to reiterate it because this is a year-long subscription that is provided to all Orange residents and Orange staff. The flyers and information is located on our district website. It's been promoted by our principals. It's been shared with our town and our community partner Bridges. In addition to building level staff efforts, every family in the district received a call from our district social worker and or our child associate with the primary purpose being to identify the supports families may need around social emotional services. We encourage families to check out the variety of sessions that are offered through the Peace at Home site, as well as checking out the district website for some literature around dealing with the social emotional needs, especially during this time. And with that being said, I hope all of our families find time this summer to relax and enjoy the beautiful weather. Thank you all for all your support throughout the year.
Does anyone have any questions for Mary?
And just in addition to that, Mr. Kraut, and Mr. Allring, if you could jump in here, I believe there's information on the town's website regarding, because this is for the entire community. Is that correct, Matt? Okay. Appreciate that. Thanks, Matt.
I have a question for Mary.
Go ahead,
Just
Betty.
just curious, how many families will be participating in the distance learning this summer?
You know, Betty, I have to say that as just as this meeting was formulating, everybody was coming in, I'm thinking, Betty's going to ask me. And I have to confess, I did not calculate that number for you, although I can get it for you pretty.
Well, that's okay. I just wanted some ideas. Is it the majority of students or?
Yes, it was
small-
a majority are
Okay.
taking advantage of the
Good.
virtual.
All right. And is there any way to know how many families access the social emotional resources?
Yes, they're supposed to be giving me reports on that periodically. The last report I had was a couple of weeks ago, and it was a fairly low number, but they did say, of course, we had just started it.
Right.
One of the marketing strategies they say is that, you know, research tells us that people need to hear something, I don't know, like 10 times before they remember it. So, which is the reason why we have asked the town to post it. Our principals have put it in their newsletters. And I shared it with Bridges as another way to outreach to the community. So we'll continue to promote that throughout the year, and they will give us a report as to how frequently it's accessed.
No, that's terrific. And when you said, I think you said that you contacted all families. Did you mean every family or just special service families?
No, I contacted the special needs families, but our social worker and our child associate specifically contacted every family in the district in general, just to see how they're doing. It was very well received. I think some families just needed someone to talk to.
Yes, well, you know, that's wonderful because I'm sure just the outreach and knowing that people are thinking about them and want to help in any way.
Right.
was
And we
probably-
sincerely do. So, and we continue to be, you know, I'm available throughout the summer if there's anything I can do to help families. We know that this challenge isn't going away anytime too soon. So we want to be here to support our families as long as necessary.
Okay. Thank you very much.
If I could add to that.
Go ahead, Mary.
Again, speaking as a parent, it was a very nice phone call to receive, just to know that the district was thinking of the students and the families as a whole. And the just again anecdotal feedback that I have gotten that other friends have shared, they also really appreciated the phone call and all of the continued special services outreach that was offered to the families as a whole. So thank you for everything.
Thank you.
You can do that. Anyone else? Very well. We'll move on to board business. We have a couple of first reads. First read, policy 5131, student conduct, and policy 3240, tuition and fees. Please look at those policies between the meetings. In the July meeting, we will be expected to vote on those policies. All right.
Hey,
Director.
Bill.
Yeah.
Bill,
Is that,
Policy 3240 is not a first read. It's just our tuition and
Oh, I'm
fee
sorry.
policy.
okay. All right.
So at this
We
time,
still,
Mr.
we still need to vote on that, correct, Kim?
We need
Is
to
that the-
vote on the two, we
On the
just need
tuition
to,
number?
yes, we do.
Okay, so I'm assuming that your committee will be making a recommendation?
Dr. Scarpetti will talk to that right now.
Oh,
So-
okay, I'm sorry.
So, oh, sorry, my screen just disappeared for a second. So policy 3240, as a refresher for everyone, is the board was kind enough, if someone is a teacher in Orange but is a resident elsewhere, if they would like to have their children attend the Orange school, they can. And so we agreed on the amount of no less than 50% of the current net per pupil cost. Just so you know, I believe the recommendation is to keep it at the same. Since this has been adopted in 2016, we've had no staff that has requested this. So I like to keep things the same, but according to the policy, we have to bring it up in every June meeting.
Sorry. Kim, do we need to take action on that? Or if we're gonna leave it the same, do we just move on from that?
You know what, I don't have the wording, the wording open in
Alright,
front of me.
You know what, we can take it up in the July meeting just to confirm that. I'm not, I
Okay.
do remember voting, but maybe it was in 2016. That also includes administrators, does it not, Dr. Scarpetti?
It does.
Okay, very good. Any other questions on that policy? Okay, we'll move on to Director of Business and Operations position, Dr. Scarpetti.
Mr. Kraut, again, I apologize to board members that I did not share this policy. But there's a policy 2151, hiring school administrators, which shares that the appointment of all administrators is valid only when made in such a manner when the superintendent will submit his or her recommendations to the Orange Board in writing. The board will accept or reject the superintendent's recommendation at a regular or special board meeting no later than 1 month from their submission. I share this policy because we are in the process of interviewing the Director of Business and Operations. And I would, through Mr. Kraut, would ask the entire board to give me permission to either work on my own or through the executive board to hire someone in order to avoid an executive session, which we've had to do in the past. If you may recall, for those of you that have been on the board a while, that since we've missed a meeting, we had to do an executive session to hire someone in order to meet this policy. So I am requesting that hopefully there will be a decision even as soon as tomorrow evening. We've started the process last week. We've had 11 candidates who applied, 5 which were interviewed, and this would be the third phase of the process. But would like the levity and flexibility to work with the executive board with the final decision in order to avoid another meeting being called. Mrs. Brown, I don't know if you want to add anything with regarding that policy or share anything, but I believe I summed it up, but in case you want to share anything else that we discussed.
No, I would only add that, we did, this does tend to happen, particularly, in the summer when there's a lot of new hires. And we did reinforce as a committee about a year ago that we did want to leave the policy the same at the same time, which would then require that the board take action in some way before the hire. And I think that policy does definitely give us the discretion to allow the superintendent to get the approval of the executive committee as long as we agree to that ahead of time.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown.
Does anyone else have any other questions for Dr. Scarpetti regarding the process or where he is at the current moment with the hiring?
Quick comment or question, and that is sometimes in the past, the contractual parameters, and I'm intentionally being vague because I realize we're not an executive, sometimes become a subject of higher bargaining. And on occasion, there have been the need to address the sometimes limiting contractual parameters. And if is the request that if the hire go in that direction, that the executive committee could also address that potential scenario, or is there no anticipation that that potential scenario would develop?
Chris, are you asking the executive board to review the actual contract itself before it's put forth for signing?
Sometimes, depending on the position, the salary parameters sometimes become subject to negotiation, and I'm not sure exactly what the whole board would be essentially delegating to the executive committee, and that would be just simply ratifying the hire, or in the event that the economics of the potential hire become more fluid, and sometimes the caps need to be discussed or addressed. Would it be the intent of, under the proposed scenario, the executive committee to handle that as well, or is it not anticipated that that would happen?
I would request the executive board to handle both, Mr. Young. They actually, all three members of the board that the executive board have signed previous contracts such as this, so they would be very involved with that process. So I appreciate you bringing that to the entire board, but I would also want to include that too, Mr. Young.
Sure. No, thanks. Just wanted to be clear as to what the whole board would be assigning over to the super committee, so to speak. Okay, thanks.
Appreciate that.
And then also, this particular position comes up for review a year from the hire, correct? Or July 1, 2021?
Usually the person will be evaluated annually, but the contract could be 2 or 3. This is not a union position. It's outside the union.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Dr. Scarpetti? Does anyone have any objections to going forward with Dr. Scarpetti's decision and the review of the executive board, pending review of the executive board?
No.
Very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Let's see, standing committees. Ms. Riccio, I don't see you, but I know you're
I'm
up.
here. I'm here.
Okay.
I don't have a lot to add other than, as Christine mentioned, we did meet prior to this meeting. Everything is in order. Pleased with the hard work of the finance department, specifically Christine, in determining where we had savings so that we can ultimately move forward with closing this year and working forward to next year. Also been impressed with all of the pre-planning that's been done already for next year so that we're in compliance with our coming contract as well. This current budget, I should say.
Anyone have any questions for Susan? Very well, thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Personnel? Tim?
The Policy and Personnel Subcommittee met on Wednesday, the 3rd. We reviewed policy 5131, which is student conduct. You received a copy that is edited to reflect the administrator. So all the principals reviewed that policy, and then the committee reviewed it as well. Mostly what you will really see is just wording changes. It is consistent with CABE's recommended language as well. CABE, it's one thing I do really want to point out about this policy is that CABE notes that this policy 5131 can serve also in place of policy 5144, which is discipline, and 5114 suspension. And the administration believes that that is the way to go. So the committee intends, once this policy 5131 is established and approved by the board, it will replace those 2 other policies as well, 5144 and 5114. And what would happen on the website is when people went to one of those 2 policies, if they wanted to go look at 5144 or 5114, then there would just be a placeholder there and they would be directed to 5131. The committee also reviewed a list of CABE recommended policies. Actually, they weren't really recommended, just CABE highlighted some policies that the district may want to review pending decisions made for next year regarding the coronavirus. And so the committee is likely to meet this summer to look at those more closely. And then finally, I mentioned the CABE audit in the past. We're also starting to look more closely at the policies that CABE recommended for revision in the audit. So that'll be a long-term process.
Very well. Any questions for Kim? Thank you, Kim. Buildings and grounds, Charles.
Good evening, everyone. We had been scheduled to meet last Monday, June 8th, but at the request of some very busy school personnel, we did postpone our June 8th meeting. So I don't have a full report for this month, but I do anticipate trying to meet, if not later this month when things are a little quieter, at least once in July, to follow up on a few matters we were attending to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Charles. And I would like whoever the candidate is for the new Director of Business and Operations, Vince, Charles and I would like it if he's okay with going on roofs, or she is okay with going on roofs. Poor Charles was put on a roof 2 weeks after he became chairman of Buildings and Grounds. I called him up and said, "We're going walking on school roofs, Charles." So anyway, thank you, Charles. Curriculum, Mr. Simon. Ken?
Can you just have to get your mic, Mr. Simon, just have to get your microphone. I think on the bottom, Mr. Simon, if you scroll it'll pop up and there'll be a microphone to turn it on and off. Nothing yet, Mr. Simon. Nothing on the bottom. If you scroll, it'll pop up. You'll have a choice to end the meeting, turn off your camera, or turn your microphone on. That's on the bottom of the screen. Or even if you roll over your picture, it should be there too. We could always play charades. First word, Mr. Simon. So again, Mr. Simon, scroll right over your picture. There should be a.
Okay.
Right now.
How about now?
There you go.
There you go.
Good. Well, I have nothing to say. I missed Dr. Russo, who I assume, as usual, took all my stuff. But rather than just go over that again, I just had a short.
Wait,
statement.
I didn't say anything about what you were going to say. I saved it all for you.
Okay. I don't think so, but okay. Anyway, I did want to say that under Dr. Scarpetti and Dr. Russo's leadership, the teachers have been doing a wonderful job with taking control of the curriculum and embracing the role that social emotional feelings play in the learning process. And then this happened. I was thrilled to read. I read a number of the overwhelmingly positive feedback that we got from our teachers. In many cases, they sounded proud, as they should have. To be sure, this was a situation no one expected, planned for, or wanted. I was very concerned, though, about the union's initial negative response to this situation. And I'm glad the teachers have come so far in an attempt to surmount the difficulties this situation presented, and remember that as teachers, they're needed to do everything they can in service of the children in their class. Did you, Dr. Russo, did you share any of the responses that you got from the teachers?
I did not. I was saving that for you.
I can't remember it now, but yes, they were terrific. I don't have them with me. I couldn't possibly get to them now, but I was just looking at them. They were very, very positive.
And for the rest of the board, we will share that at the next board meeting, but it's
Yeah,
referencing
they're
what I
really
shared.
interesting. The questions elicited a lot of good information, and they really had a lot to say. And I don't know how many teachers there were in all, but it was 40-something responses, which I think is a very good turnout. How many teachers were there? Do you know, Dr. Russo?
Yes, 70 so far. Some responses are still coming in.
Uh-huh.
And you saw the 45 because a lot of them just said, like, yes, I've grown. So I didn't add all those yeses. But I agree with you, Mr. Ziman. It was really nice to see the difference, the pre and the post.
Yes.
In the beginning, they were very worried about confidentiality, about being videotaped while they were teaching, about their confidence in their skills. And yes, as Dr. Scarpetti and Mr. Ziman said, we will share some of those. And I think I could hear a different tone, and I could hear them feeling proud about the skills that they have acquired through distance learning.
It was very different. It's very difficult, I think, to run a professional union. It's kind of an oxymoron. And I think they were very concerned about how their teachers would feel. But in fact, the teachers, I think, did very well. That's
So for the rest of the board, this is something that I indicated in the superintendent's report, that we're already starting already of our learning, our knowledge to gain, and the work we're doing in the summer. Mr. Ziman, as the chair of the curriculum subcommittee, asked to have a preview of some of the responses already of the survey that were sent. But as we shared, we will be sharing this with the entire board at the next meeting, and hopefully getting all the parents' responses too, and seeing if there's any correlations or even disconnects with what teachers are saying versus parents.
And I don't know if it's redundant, if people did it already, but I really want to thank the parents who were forced to step in and become educational aides. Anyone who's experienced it knows how difficult it can be to teach your own children. So we're very lucky. That's it.
I echo those thoughts, Mr. Ziman, wholeheartedly.
And I just want to add that the leadership shown by Dr. Rousseau, Mary Ito, Dr. Scarpetti, the principals is remarkable. When I talk to family members and hear about what their what this distance learning has looked like for them, some of it's just been all like online platforms or just packets of work, and to know that our kids were getting regular contact with their teachers and we're seeing their teachers' faces in videos, and that really the integrity of the curriculum was protected. I think it's pretty remarkable what I heard at that last curriculum meeting. So I'm just so impressed. So thank you for your leadership as well.
We appreciate your sentiments, Mrs. Brown, and again, it was an evolution. We didn't start there. We appreciated of our growth and our teachers' growth and working together, and really hope that this experience will help us face anything that comes our way come the fall.
Anyone else for Ken?
Yep. I'm
No?
done.
Okay, thank you. ACES, Ms. Riccio?
Okay, ACES met on last Thursday, June 4th. Actually, it was 2 Thursdays ago. Among the many things that we went over during that meeting, one of the things was the fiscal report. As I mentioned last time, ACES was running at a slight deficit. Our positions improved. It's still operating at a deficit. We are projecting a surplus for the end of the year. So that would mean that there would be no additional charges to the districts, which for all of us in Orange, that's a big statement. So we're very fortunate that ACES will end up with a slight surplus at the end of the year. That was one piece. Second thing I wanted to mention was ACES had a building called their Tech Services Building, and they just recently sold it, and those particular staff will be going into another one of our buildings. Other than that, we approved a ton of schools and program budgets. Nothing really all that, I'll say, unusual than we normally do each year. So Wintergreen, Thomas Edison, both magnet schools, tech services, fiscal services, human resources, educational tech services, outreach, security, professional development and school improvement, and international budgets were all approved. Those are kind of the highlights a little bit. Any questions?
No questions? Very good. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate it. As it stands right now, we will be having the July 20th board meeting. As I said in the last meeting, seems so long ago, if there is a problem for any board member getting to that meeting, whether it be pre-planned vacations or that sort of thing, please advise Mary on that, Mary Shaw, so that we make sure that we have a quorum. If we need to make adjustments in that date, maybe we'll do that as well. So if anyone has any conflict, please let Mary know. A week or two ahead of time. Anyhow, all right. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to add?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to remark how stylish you look this evening with such a winning shirt on tonight, and I just
Are you talking about this, Charles?
yes, it struck me that it just really brought a sense of winning to the meeting. So I just wanted to thank you.
Yeah, I wear it specifically for Mr. Ziman because I know he would like to be on our side. Great, Charles. Mary Ito?
Betty, I just wanted to follow up. We're about 75% of families accepting the virtual distance learning. And there's a small percentage of that would normally not even accept ESY anyhow. So I can't say all of it was as a result of the distance learning decision. Sometimes it's just family dynamics.
Yeah.
But that's where we are right now.
That's terrific. Thank you very much, Mary.
You're welcome.
And Bill, do you think there's a possibility we could meet in person in July, depending on what phase 2 brings?
You know what? In my mind, regardless of what phase 2 brings, I'm going to try as hard as I possibly can to have us all meet. You know what? We'll meet at picnic tables if we have to, outdoors, see what we can do. But yeah, good. Perfectly honest with you, I'd love to see you guys again. It's great to see your smiling faces on the screen, but love to have a conversation with all of you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your patience too. We appreciate it. All right, without any further ado, Susan, would you like to make the motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Yes, I would.
I see a hand, and that would be seconded by Mr. Ziman. Any further discussion on that motion to adjourn? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Very well. Our meeting is adjourned at 7:56. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Good to see you.